Hello there, Pastor Jeff here at the Worship Center. Welcome to a round of Bible talk. We're going to get into some questions as we go through this series. It gives everybody an opportunity to submit any questions that you might have about anything faith related, really about your faith, about God, the Bible, Scripture, anything at all. If you have those questions, I want to invite you to go ahead and submit those. You can do that by handing me the question on Sunday mornings. You can do that by our app as well. There's a card on there on our app. When you click on that, it'll give you a little text box where you can submit any question you have. And I'll do my best to answer those questions. I can't guarantee that I'll have all the answers, but I'll do everything I can to answer each of those questions. And we're going to start out with a question that came in, and it asked, how can we determine whether a passage in the Bible is descriptive or prescriptive? And that's an excellent question. And the difference between those two, if something is descriptive, then it's kind of telling you a little bit about something in that area, something in the times, an event. It's just telling you about something. And prescriptive, when we see something that is telling us how we should conduct ourselves, how we should behave, what we should not do, those sort of things are prescriptive. To give a few details or a few examples of each one, if we look in the Bible, we look at building the temple, all the dimensions that went into it, the materials that went into it, all of that is being very descriptive of building the temple and what it were to look like, and all that's very descriptive. To give more of a person type thing, if you see, when you read in the Bible about Solomon, right, it tells us that Solomon had 700 wives. That's descriptive. It's describing a fact. It's describing something that was a fact, that did exist or did happen. One thing to note, though, is just because the Bible mentions something or just because the Bible discusses something, it doesn't mean that God condones it. Scripture is very clear that we're meant to just have one spouse, and that's it, not multiple spouses, no polygamy, nothing like that. And Solomon having all these wives was not condoned by God. But it's in Scripture because it's showing that it's a thing that happened. God didn't condone it, but it is a thing that happened. It's a fact of the times, is what it was. So it's important to understand that just because it's in the Bible doesn't mean that God condones it. It can be descriptive, just trying to describe what's going on or describe someone's behavior, something like that at that time. And on the other side, we have things that are prescriptive. For example, Jesus tells us to love God with all our heart, our soul, and our mind. That's when he's asked, what is the greatest commandment? The Pharisees trying to trap him. And he gives that example. That is prescriptive. It's telling us something that we should do. We should put God above everything else in our lives. That is prescriptive, something that we should do. Another one is when he says to love your enemy. Jesus is very clear on that. We're to love everybody. As Christians, we're to love people because, well, they deserve it, just because they're made in the image of God and for no other reason. So anytime that we see something like that, is a prescribed thing that we should follow, we should do, just like a prescription from the doctor, something you should follow, you should do. So it's a prescribed thing. The commandments from Christ tell us or prescribe to us how we should behave, how we should act and conduct ourselves. But then some might say, well, what about, for example, what about tattoos? Well, that's a great question. If you read in Leviticus, it says that we're not to make any marks on our bodies. That's a good point. And at first glance, that might seem like that is prescriptive because it's talking about a behavior or an action. But this is where you got to have one more piece of the puzzle to determine whether something is prescriptive or descriptive. Something like that comes up, you have to take a look at context. Context is everything. And when determining whether an action that the Bible is saying we should or should not do, whether that applies to us, we have to take a look at the context that it's written in. So they were told in Leviticus, they were told to make no markings because that was a pagan tradition in that area. They would mark on themselves to mourn the dead or in like an idol worship type of thing. So that's why God was telling them, hey, don't do that. And you go back, look at the 10 Commandments, right? Have no other gods before me. We can't go making idols. You can't put anything above God. And the pagan tribes that were around Israel in the Old Testament would do things like that as a form of pagan worship. Another thing to keep in mind is the verse just before that in Leviticus, verse 27, actually says that you shouldn't shave the sides of your head or the edges of your beard. Well, all of my head's shaved, and I definitely trim my beard. But again, it's all about context. Context is so important when you're studying Scripture, when you're getting into the meaning of things. Context is everything. So you have to have the context of it. Again, the pagan nations around them, the pagan tribes, would do those things as a form of worship to the idols that they had. So that's why God's saying, hey, don't do that. He's trying to tell them to not be like the pagan nations around them, that they're to be a called out, be separate and a holy people, and to live their lives differently. So context is absolutely everything. So I hope that clears up a little bit about differences between descriptive and prescriptive. I hope it does. Feel free to let me know in the comments what you think about it. If you have any questions, again, you can use our app, our Church Connect app. Feel free to drop any questions you have in there, or give them to me Sunday morning. Or if you want to put them in the comments, I'll do my best to take a look at those and get those questions answered as well. I'll try to take about one question per video. We'll keep it short, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. And we will see you Sunday morning.